Hello BookTube, Books with Banks back again with another video today. Sorry, let me straighten that out. Today I've got a pretty big Merry Christmas holiday season book haul for you all. So this consists of things I found on a sale at unfortunately, a used bookstore that's closing down. I found these just while I was out and about Christmas shopping. This also has some things the things that I was gifted for Christmas yesterday. Without any further ado, they're all behind me, and of course I'm not going to be spoiling anything that I talk about here because most of the stuff is stuff I haven't read yet. So here we go. I'll just kind of grab and go through as we go. So we'll start here. I haven't read that much Robin Hobb, or I haven't read any Robin Hobb actually, and I think I have Assassin's Apprentice, so the first of the Farseer trilogy, and I have Ship of Magic, so the first of the Live Ship Traders trilogy. But at that used bookstore sale, they had the entire Tawny Man trilogy, and I got this for all $3 because the place is closing down and things were on clearance. So that's Fool's Errand by Robin Hobb. Then the second one, Golden Fool by Robin Hobb, and then Fool's Fate, the third in that trilogy, being, I believe, the third trilogy in the more massive realm of the Elderling series. I love that they're all mass market paperbacks, and they're a little older, a little well-loved. I really kind of like that look, and I like the look of these spines. So yeah, got those three. It won't be for a while until I really dive into Realm of the Elderlings, maybe starting Farseer this year, but probably not until 2024. And even then, if I start Farseer in 2024, who knows when I'm going to get to Tawny Man Trilogy. But yeah, got those. I really like all of these covers. Really kind of cool, classic fantasy artwork kind of on the covers there. So that's the Tawny Man Trilogy. Then I got some more kind of classic things, like real old kind of stuff, Pulp Fiction stuff at this used bookstore. So here we have Pirates of Venus by Edgar Rice Burroughs. I just found this in a box. It hadn't been shelved or priced yet, and I just said, hey, if you're selling everything, can I check this out? I've been meaning to get into Burroughs, get into, some of the fantasy stuff that, came even before, like Tolkien, some of the more sword and sorcery type things. I asked if she had any Robert E. Howard as well. Unfortunately not. She did have some, but they were more like collector's items, and those went pretty early during her whole clearance sale. The used bookstore owner during her sale. So yeah, I found that, and then she said, here, let me take you back. Which Edgar Rice Burroughs are you interested in, or have you heard of? And I said, well, I know some of like the John Carter stuff, or maybe like the Barsoom stuff, the Mars stuff I'd be interested in. And she found for me in the back these 6, which aren't, unfortunately, it's not all of them, but I guess there's 11 or 12 or so of the John Carter of Mars kind of series, starting with The Princess of Mars. And she found for me back in her collection of older things, books 1, 3, 4, or here, I'll do this. 1, 3, 4, 5, 8, and 11. So that seems like, and of course these are going to be like pretty quick reads when I do get around to starting them, but they all have that great old book smell. I'm really excited to dive into these, maybe little tiny palate cleansers, also just to build my familiarity with the genre, see what some influences on some of my favorite modern fantasy writers might have been. So yeah, I was really excited to find these, and really thankful to the owner of that bookstore for taking me kind of into the back room where she kept a lot of the Pulp Fiction stuff and pulpier, older sci-fi fantasy, and showing that to me and going through, because it seemed like she was just going along the spines, and she knew pretty quickly, just from the titles, what was in what series. Obviously, she's one of those bookstore owners with such a wealth of knowledge. So that was a real pleasure to kind of watch her and work and help me and find things and pick stuff off the shelves and the old piles and stacks. But yeah, so some Edgar Rice Burroughs. Picked those up. Excited to get into his stuff. Next, I'll talk about... last but not least, what I found there. I found, of all the Steven Erikson I love, I obviously love Malazan. That's down on that shelf there, a little lower than the frame. But I did find the first two Willful Child books, Willful Child and Willful Child Wrath of Betty. I believe the third one's Search for Spark, and I think that's out, but I haven't seen it, I didn't find it. I haven't bought it yet. I've heard these are really, really good. I've heard they're a little kind of like similar to the vibe of Galaxy Quest, poking fun at Star Trek, and I really enjoy Galaxy Quest. And I've seen maybe a handful of random Star Trek episodes. I've seen 4 or 5 Star Trek films. However, I haven't dived into any one series. I really, really do this year want to get into Star Trek a little bit more, and I kind of want to do that before I get into Steven Erikson poking fun and paying homage to a series that's obviously very important to him. So yeah, I was happy to find these. I got these relatively a little cheaper, and was able to kind of support this bookstore as it was shutting down. But yeah, excited to get into these kind of after I get into the actual Star Trek series, though, just to give myself a little bit more context. I plan to make a video sometime this coming year asking for help, basically, with where to start in Star Trek, how to start in Star Trek, explaining what I understand of the series and the different, series, from Voyager to Deep Space Nine to Next Generation, all that different stuff, kind of explaining where my base level knowledge is right now and trying to get advice for how to move forward with that with the show. And then maybe if anyone wants to recommend the books, I'd be happy to pick up one or two of those, and then from there getting into Steven Erikson, an author I already love and respect so much, getting into his comedic take riff on those. So yeah, the Willful Child, first 2 Willful Child books by Steven Erikson. Then I got these for my fiance. However, I'm gonna read them with her. But these newer editions of the Percy Jackson series, Percy Jackson and the Olympians. So the Lightning Thief, that's the cover for the first one there. Then The Sea of Monsters, Book 2. The Titan's Curse, Book 3. Battle of the Labyrinth, Book 4. And last but not least, Book 5, The Last Olympian. I've never read these. I think my brother read the first 3 or so when we were younger. He was always recommending that I get into these books as well. He said I'd really like them. I enjoy Greek mythology kind of stories. Like, I like the God of War video games. I enjoy references to Greek mythology. But yeah, so I'm excited to get into these. From what I understand, they are for a slightly younger audience. So hopefully maybe they might be a little more breezy reads to fit in this coming year between some of the denser series that I'm reading. But yeah, so I got these for my fiance, but when she starts these, I'll definitely join in and read them along with her. The 5 Percy Jackson series, all a matching edition. She has some of these already, but some of her copies are a little water damaged, so I figured a new matching set would be really nice. Then what we have next is I want to read 5 books by one author that I've never read before this year, and I have 4 of those already. The only one missing would be the 3rd in publication order, and that is The Lions of Al-Rassan by Guy Gabriel Kay. Now, this edition is a little beat up, but I honestly don't really mind that so much. I just love that it's mass market paperback. I love that really nice old book smell, and I'm just as excited to read this as I am to read Tigana, Song for Arbonne, and the Sarantine Mosaic, the 2 novels that make up that duology. So yeah, really excited, really glad to have gotten The Lions of Al-Rassan. This has been on my 2023 TBR for a while. I just, however, haven't actually physically owned a copy or an edition that the dimensions and everything that I would like until just now. Lions of Alverson, super excited for that one. Next up, my brother got me, he continues to help me build my Tolkien collection. This is volume 7 in the Christopher Tolkien edited Histories of Middle-earth compilation of stories and notes and drafts and things, of everything that J.R.R. Tolkien, all of the work he put into developing the world and these stories. Volume 6, 7, 8, and 9 being the ones that are really about specifically Lord of the Rings. So obviously that's like a 3-book trilogy, but spread across 4 kind of volumes of drafts and notes. So this covers End of Fellowship, beginning of Two Towers, around there. It's a pretty thick volume too, but yeah, I'm really, really excited for that. I believe that's Edoras depicted on the cover there. I think that's a really lovely artwork. So yeah, excited for Volume 7 in the Histories of Middle-earth, the Treason of Isengard. Next up, I'm excited for this one because I do want to have more conversations about things like narrative theory, how they fit into the fantasy genre, how things like feminism and postmodernism and a lot of different, kind of more academic ideas and analysis methods fit into reading and analyzing the fantasy genre. So I saw this and I was really drawn to a lot of the titles of the articles within it, or the essays written for this book, this textbook. And I know it might be a little strange, but I asked for, on my Christmas wish list, a textbook. This is Narrative Theory Unbound, edited by Robin Warhol and Susan S. Lanzer. The full title is Narrative Theory Unbound, Queer and Feminist Interventions. Really, really excited to get into a few of these. I plan every month or so to read, through 3 or 4 of the different essays that are written in here. Maybe if any of them, if I can, draw some powerful connections between what I'm discovering here and what I'm also like reading at the same time, maybe making some kind of analysis videos using and referencing what I expect to be really insightful works of this wonderful collection, this textbook kind of collection. Narrative Theory, Queer and Feminist Interventions. Really excited for that one. Actually, I'd say expect sometime in the next couple of weeks, expect 1 or 2 videos about various essays from this textbook. Next up, I've already talked about or expressed my interest in getting more into Berserk. While I am just with different visits to different bookstores building my collection of those volumes. I think right now I have volumes 1 through 12 of that. I want volumes 1 through 14 because I believe those contain the first arc and then the second arc. The first arc, like Black Swordsman's arc, the second arc being the Golden Age one, and that's my reading goal for Berserk this coming year. But I figured while I'm at it, I might also want to get into a different manga to see if I enjoy a manga series that a lot of my other favorite booktubers like Murphy, Napier, and Philip Chase are enjoying, and that is, of course, Vinland Saga, and this is the nice hardback, larger volume 1, so I'm excited to get started there. I really like how these editions are done, I really like the spines there, so yeah, I might balance my Berserk reading with Vinland Saga. I don't expect to get into too much manga beyond those 2 series because these are kind of my first forays, my first steps into that slightly different medium. But yeah, Vinland Saga Volume 1, got that for Christmas. Very excited about that. Next up, we have the first collection of Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser stories. In this type of publication, they have like a series of these like published like this. This first one's called Swords and Deviltry. It's got like 4 short stories in it. I believe the second story is around 100 pages or so, so it's a little longer. But I'm really excited to get into these, honestly, mostly because, from what I understand, these were a pretty big influence on Steven Erikson and some of the ways that he writes characters and comedy in Malaz and Book of the Fallen. So yeah, I'm kind of along the same lines of getting a little more into sword and sorcery type of fantasy stuff published for, magazines originally, trying to give that kind of offshoot of the genre its due, trying to build my fantasy genre literacy with Fritz Lieber's stories, Fafford and Grey Mauser stories. Really excited to get into this really, really short collection. I hope to have this read, partway through January, and I'll talk about it and maybe try and comment on whether or not I was able to identify what Steven Erikson was drawn to about this and where some of the same ideas that I see in here, what Erikson might have really been influenced by with these stories. Really excited to get into these. Bafford and the Grey Mauser. Next up, another more academic book, but this one is close to my heart. I've read several sections of this. I might have in total read the whole thing. Like if you catch a movie enough times on TV at different parts, eventually you watch the whole thing, but never in the right order, or you never sat down and started it and watched it beginning to end. That might be how I am with this, but this is Meta History by Hayden White. Brilliant ideas, kind of bringing postmodernism and postmodern theory to history, and or at least a postmodern analysis of what the historians of the 19th century were really doing. The fact that they thought they were doing something closer to science, but Hayden White, and I think a lot of people today, historical theorists today, might argue they were doing something a little bit closer to narrative, just based on history, based on sources and primary sources and whatnot. But yeah, I'm really excited to actually sit down and read this front to back, but also this is the 40th anniversary edition with more front matter, other historians, other academics kind of commenting on the significant work of and contributions of Hayden White to historical theory. And yeah, because the original Meta History, I believe, came out in like the late 70s or early 80s, somewhere around there. But yeah, really, really, really excited to dive into this. I plan on adding a lot of my thoughts and reactions to this into other videos I do. I don't know if I'll ever make a video specifically about this book. I might, if anyone's interested in that, but I'm definitely going to use this to try and spice up how I talk about historian characters, academic-like characters in my other booktube reviews and book reviews and whatnot. Meta History, The Historical Imagination in 19th Century Europe by Hayden White, the 40th anniversary edition. Excited for that. Then, we're almost done here. One more books to go through. This being, my father-in-law got, my fiance and I, a beautiful Charles Dickens collection there. With gold rimmed pages and one of these nice bookmarks. And the 4 stories in this are Oliver Twist, A Tale of Two Cities, Great Expectations, and A Christmas Carol. Really excited to get into these. The only Dickens I've ever read is actually is A Tale of Two Cities. I loved it, so I totally expect to love the rest of these as well. Even A Christmas Carol, even though it's like super duper short. But like it's only the last like 30, 40 pages of this collection. But yeah, I'm really excited to read Oliver Twist and Great Expectations, specifically from this collection. It would, it kind of feels classy reading such a nice, fancy pants looking book. But I also might reread Tale of Two Cities because I was in high school when I read it. I did love it then. However, I'm sure how I view it and certain characters might change or might have changed in the 10 years or so since then. So yeah, last but definitely not least, a nice collection of 4 Charles Dickens classic novels. So there you have it. That's my holiday season Christmas 2022 book haul. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're excited to see me cover any of these in future videos on my if you're excited to see me cover any of these books in future videos on my channel and you haven't already, it would mean a lot if you could like and subscribe, maybe share this and other of my videos with your friends. Thank you again so much for watching. I hope you have a nice day. Bye.